Everyone is writing off the D-backs once again, so can they prove the world wrong and force a Game 7 in Philadelphia?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. If you want to see more content by me, just follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account, or look up Locked On Diamondbacks about Twitter, Instagram for the podcast handle. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free and available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. One of those platforms is YouTube, so please hit subscribe on the Locked On Diamondbacks YouTube channel. Now for today's podcast, the order is going to be kind of weird. We're going to be doing the first segment with Sully Baseball, talking about the D-backs can force a Game 7. Segment number 2, I'll be talking about questions and adjustments for the D-backs heading into Game 6, but solo. And then segment number 3, we'll be back with Sully Baseball, talking about X factors for Game 6. So let's start off segment number 1 by talking with Sully Baseball.
Welcome to the show, officially, Millard Thomas. Hey. We talked a lot about the American League in the first segment. D-backs are still alive. They're still there. And I think they've got a puncher's chance, actually. Tell me your thoughts as the voice of Diamondbacks Baseball and the Locked On Podcast Network about the Diamondbacks and their quest to win 2 more games.
Oh,
hold on.
Okay.
Sorry, there's a keep going, buddy. Keep going.
Yeah, quick technical difficulty. Yeah, still have a lot of hope and belief in this D-backs team, and watching that Game 6 Rangers versus Astros, want the D-backs to take a little something of what they saw in that game, in that series, because I thought the Rangers played their brand of baseball in that Game 6, and I think that's what the D-backs have to do going into Citizens Bank Park. You just have to play stress-free D-backs baseball. The Houston Astros are a team that's been in the championship series or better every year since 2017. There's a lot of pressure on a team like Houston to get back to the World Series. Same with the Philadelphia Phillies. That team wants to go back to their second straight World Series. They have such a big payroll, so much pot committed to that team to be at home in front of your ballpark, or in front of your fans at your home ballpark. Like, there's a lot of pressure on the Phillies, and everyone right now just kind of writing off the D-backs, right? Jeff Passan was tweeting out after the Phillies went up in that game 5 that this series was over. You can just write off the D-backs after all the D-backs have done this postseason. They were already getting written off after one game loss in Game 5. You look at the ESPN headlines after they tied up. It's like, look at the scrappy little D-backs coming through in a big postseason. Like, no one is having a lot of faith in this D-backs team. So for them going into this Game 6, like, I'm not going to put any pressure on this D-backs team. I don't think they should be putting pressure on themselves either. I want them to play stress-free baseball, play D-backs baseball, get back to using your speed, get back to creating chaos and havoc on the bases, and just play with that sense of despair and have that fire in your belly, but don't overexert yourself. Don't play out of control. Just play stress-free, and I think anything can be possible after seeing what the Texas Rangers did in Game 6 to the Houston Astros.
And also think about the fact that, in one sense, the fact that everyone's written them off, everyone's already printing out their World Series tickets for Philadelphia. Think about the fact that they won 2 games in Milwaukee. They won 2 games in Los Angeles. And they bounced back after getting the doors blown off of the 10-0 fiasco in Game 2. And I don't know if you heard my show, but I was raking Laval over the coals for taking out, fought way too soon, who was throwing a masterpiece. And, he had a bullpen game the next day. He got away with it. He dodged that bullet Matrix style. But everyone has counted out the D-backs. Hell, we were counting out the D-backs.
Yeah. Before the
when
playoffs.
they went through that massive losing streak and fell out of the playoff spot in the middle of September. And when they lost those games at the end of the year, it was like they were limping in, facing a Milwaukee team that just looked so much better than them. Every time that you've totally written this team off, they've come back. And the other thing is, every pitcher, Nola's been excellent this postseason. There's no getting around that. But the fact of the matter is, Nola's a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best pitchers I've ever seen, some of the best clutch pitchers I've ever seen have had bad days. And Kelly is a darn good pitcher. It's not like they're throwing a bullpen game out there. They have one of their two best pitchers out there. So Kelly is the key.
Yeah.
And I think if Kelly shuts them down and it turns into, if it's like a close, like 2-1, 2-2 game in the 7th or 8th inning, then you could feel things puckering up in Philadelphia. And if the Diamondbacks lose 58-0, nobody would blink.
Yeah.
So there's no pressure on them whatsoever.
That's what I don't understand. I just don't understand how so many people can just easily write them off after everything we've seen this postseason. The fact that they didn't get their first home playoff game until that game 3 against the LA Dodgers, right? In their second postseason series, they weren't able to get their first home playoff game until game 3. So this is a team that has faced adversity through the entire postseason, down to nothing in this series. Everyone was writing them off until this series got back to Arizona and the D-backs were able to tie it up. So I think Merrill Kelly is the key to this game, number 6, because we've been hoping for the D-backs offense to get going early in these games against these Philly starters all series long. And unfortunately for the D-backs, these Philly starters have just been electric. I mean, Zach Wheeler has been unhittable. Nola was unhittable in his first start. Ranger Suarez was really good too. So I expect Aaron Nola to go out there and be a stud as well. Like you said, I need this to just be a pitcher's duel through the first 6-7 innings, potentially keep the game close, keep that Phillies offense really at bay. And Merrill Kelly can do what he did last time, but this time, hopefully, Torey Lovullo keeps him out there a little bit longer to finish out that 6th inning. Trust in your starting pitcher in Merrill Kelly. Right now, Kelly is the guy in this rotation I trust the most out of all the D-back starting rotation. Zach Allen's the most talented, but we saw how he struggled in the second half, and we saw the last 2 starts against the Phillies. I know what Brandon Pfaadt has done his last 2 postseason starts, but Merrill Kelly is the guy we have the most faith in right now. Trust Merrill Kelly. If he even runs into a little trouble out there in the 4th, 5th inning, trust him to get through it. We used the bullpen heavy a couple days ago. So I want to see Merrill Kelly go as deep as he can in this one. If you could keep this Phillies offense to 3, maybe 4 runs the first 6-7 innings, I think the D-backs will have an opportunity to at least get the tying run to the plate later in the ball game once you get to that bullpen.
Now, I have a thought. We're going to talk about this in the next segment because there is a player who's coming to mind about who could be the absolute key and could be the key for the Arizona Diamondbacks pennant hopes. But of the relievers, because, you got Kelly and you're hoping, at this point, you have to manage an elimination game differently.
Yeah.
And if Kelly is throwing a masterpiece, I'm sorry, you got to let him go until he runs out of gas, because there's a whole winter you can rest up. But short of Kelly, who's, by the way, his ERA is deceptive. I mean, he has a high ERA in this series, but it's because he had a bad 6th inning in the start that he went through. But which reliever would be the first to come out of the pen for you if Kelly has some early trouble?
Yeah, it probably depends on if there's a righty or lefty on the mound, but there's some early trouble. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Torey Lovullo just wants to go with his best quartet of relievers that he has with the Sal Frank, Ryan Thompson, then Ginkel Sewald, because those 4 guys, I don't believe, pitch in that last postseason game in game 5. So I think Torey Lovullo just going to go with his best relievers here. If there's a lefty on the, at the plate, if it's like Bryce Harper or a different lefty at the plate, maybe you go with Sal Frank first. If you run into a little bit of trouble, if there's a righty, I think you probably bring out Ryan Thompson first. Thompson's also a guy that could give you some extended innings, maybe go 2 innings, and maybe you do that with all your relievers, right? If it is the 7th inning, if Kelly was able to get you to the 7th, maybe go, you know what, Ginkel, we want you to get 2 innings worth of outs here, or record 5 outs, and then we'll bring in Paul Sewald for a 4-out save. Maybe you try to stretch those guys, because Ginkel and Sewald, what we saw this postseason, I mean, neither one of those guys has a yet to allow an earned run. Both those guys have been absolute shut down the back end of the bullpen. So maybe if you really maybe if you feel truly desperate out there in the 6th inning, 7th inning, maybe you go to those 2 guys a lot earlier and give them some extended work out the pen.
I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking about Ginkel. I was thinking about, Castro's pitched pretty well in this postseason so far, and Sewald. And in my head, I was thinking that Lovola has to come up to those 3 pitchers and say, each of you are going to give me 2 innings. Be in the mindset you're going to give me 2 innings. And kind of almost retrofitting it from there. Like Sewald's going to give you the 8th and 9th. Ginkel is going to give you the 6th and 7th. Castro's going to give you the 4th and 5th. And you hope that Kelly makes that moot. If you hope that Kelly pushes it, but like even if you take Kelly out in the 6th inning or the 7th inning, hand the ball to Ginkel and say, give me 2 innings. Give me 2 innings, because what you don't want to see, and which is the nightmare, when we're going to go to a break in just a second, but the nightmare would be you burn through Sewald and Ginkel and your most reliable relievers, and it's tied, and you're in extra innings, and then all of a sudden you have to reactivate Madison Bumgarner to pitch in extra innings. And kind of that's the nightmare in some way, to be like, you burn through too many pitchers too quickly, and now the pennant's on the line, and you're the 5th or 6th pitchers deep in it.
Yeah, I need to see Torey Lovullo just play his best players. Like, use Merrill Kelly as deep as he can, because Merrill Kelly, if he gets, crushed early, like, I think the D-backs just roll over in this one. Like, I don't think the chance, if, Phillies put up like 6 runs in those first couple of innings and you just got to yank Merrill Kelly, I don't think there's any chance. So you need Merrill Kelly to go 6, 7 innings, and then just use your best relievers out the pen. At this point, elimination game, I don't care about the matchups. I don't care about the lefty stuff. Just go with your best dudes. And if you could get it to the 7th in a manageable game, I wouldn't be scared to pull Kevin Ginkel out the pen early.
And you want to have that win and the win after that, so you can buy tickets to the World Series in Arizona. Speaking of tickets. Hey, you know what? There's going to be a lot of Arizona Diamondbacks fans out there who want to see them win and win again and buy those tickets for game 3, 4, and 5 of the World Series. And let me tell you something, D-backs fans, if it comes to that, use Game Time. Game Time takes the stress and the worry out of buying your tickets and leaves the stress and the worry to watching the ball games. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, view from the seat, and the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And you get the view from the seat from the venues, you get lowest price guarantee, and you get that all-in prices. They show the total right up front, so you're getting a great deal without the hidden fees. And don't worry about losing that email being sent to your device. All tickets are bought in seconds, and you have them right there on the app. Zone deals mean you pick the section, and Game Time picks the seats, with an average of 18% savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price if you find tickets in the same section row for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price. Do you want? They're guaranteed.
All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. If you like the show, please follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for my personal account, or look up Locked On Diamondbacks about Twitter, Instagram for the podcast handle on all streaming platforms. And please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. But now let's talk about some questions and adjustments that I have for the D-backs as they head into that game 6. And One question that I have for the D-backs is, are they ever going to use their team speed in this series? I'm not just talking about send the Corbin Carrolls of the world, because yes, we need to see Corbin Carroll be sent. There's been opportunities in this series where Corbin Carroll has gone on base and has not been sent. We need the fastest player in baseball to use his speed. Please send him Torrey. But even outside of Corbin Carroll, Alek Thomas is also one of the fastest players in baseball. Let's use him. Let's see some more first or third action if that opportunity presents itself. Maybe even try a couple more sacrifice hits, like play your brand of baseball. And guess what? The D-backs are not afraid to use small ball. Maybe you send Geraldo Perdomo out there to lay down a bunt for a potential base hit or just to move the runners over. Maybe even if, maybe you could move over Alek Thomas from first to third by a good bunt by Geraldo Perdomo. If, there's a little havoc on the bases with this defense of the Philadelphia Phillies, right? You want the Phillies to make the plays on the base paths defensively, make the plays in the outfield. Like, I want to put pressure on this Phillies defense. I don't think this offense has done that enough this series. I don't think this I don't think this Phillies defense has been tested enough this series. So I think we need to test it a little bit more by creating havoc, creating chaos, and using that team speed. Another question I have is just the batting order overall. Is Tommy Pham going to be coming back in? Of course, there's a righty on the mound with Aaron Nola. I still want Tommy Pham in the lineup over Pavin Smith. I just trust the Tommy Pham more. I like Pavin Smith as a pinch hitter. I don't want to see Pavin Smith batting fifth in a postseason game. Like, it was cool when he came in pinch hit and came through in those opportunities, but Pavin Smith should not be batting fifth in a playoff game. Pavin Smith, I still don't think has the level of confidence you would need to be batting fifth in a postseason game. I just don't trust him in those situations. And so, Torey Lovullo, please don't ever do that again. I don't mind Pavin Smith as a pinch hitter. I just don't want to see him batting fifth in my postseason lineup. Are we going to take Evan Longoria out? That's a big question because Evan Longoria has been struggling big time in this series, and really since that first series against the Milwaukee Brewers, it's not like Evan Longoria has really done anything for the D-backs, because in that first series against the Brewers, it wasn't even like he did that much. He only had one hit in that series, but it felt like he was a lot more important. And then against the Dodgers, he was 2 for 10, and then in this series, he's 1 for 12. Evan Longoria has 4 hits total this postseason. It just hasn't been good from Evan Longoria. He's 4 for 30 this postseason. I think he needs to sit down. Do you put Manny Rivera in? I don't know. Jordan Lawler? I don't know. I just don't think Evan Longoria is the answer right now in your lineup with how he's swinging the bat. It feels like he has no power. I feel like anytime I think Evan Longoria is going to give a ball a ride, it feels like he hits a force field in left field and just dies out there. So I just don't really trust Evan Longoria's offense right now. Still like him as a veteran presence and a leader, but offensively, he's given us no production right now at the plate. Kind of a hot take. Should we think about moving Christian Walker down in the lineup? He's been really struggling. I was trying to think of the best configuration you could do the lineup, but maybe you do Moreno in that cleanup. Maybe do a Lourdes Gurriel. Maybe we can move Alek Thomas up to fifth if you want like a lefty higher. Like, does Christian Walker deserve to be moved down to like a 6? And then you could do like Gurriel 4, Alek Thomas 5, or maybe do like Moreno 4, Alek Thomas 5, Christian Walker 6, if you want to make sure you're not just going righty. Like, I don't know, but it's a question I have of whether Christian Walker should be moved down in the lineup or not. And should Alek Thomas be moved up, like I just said, to number 5? If you're going to put Pavin Smith in that number 5 hole because he's a lefty, why not do it with a guy who's actually shown power and clutchness this postseason in Alek Thomas, if you're going to want to put a lefty in that situation, especially with Aaron Nola on the mound? And another question that I have that I think we can all answer: are we going to see Craig Kimbrel? Because if we are, I like the D-backs' chances a lot to win this Game 6 and potentially force a Game 7. I just don't think there's a chance we see Craig Kimbrel in this game. I think Rob Thompson knows he will get booed big time in Philadelphia if he goes out there and brings a Craig Kimbrell in the ball game. Craig Kimbrell has showed no signs of life this postseason. That's fastball Craig Kimbrell has right now looks absolutely flat and dead. I think these D-backs hitters are completely locked in on the stuff of a Craig Kimbrell. So if Rob Thompson wants to throw Craig Kimbrell out there, it will be to the demise of the Philadelphia Phillies. So I hope we see Kimbrell, but I'm pretty sure we won't in this postseason Game 6 in Philadelphia. I just don't think there's a shot he puts him out there in front of that fan base. How do you slow down the tandem of Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber? Big question mark I have heading into this Game 6 because maybe you don't pitch to him. I mean, Bryce Harper from the fans in Citizens Bank Park, I think it's just going to be like on steroids, like it's just like an extra level of juice for Bryce Harper that just scares me. Kyle Schwarber, I mean, the bat looks like a toothpick in his hands right now. Every time he swings it, you'll hear Sully Baseball talk about it in segment number 3, but it feels like Kyle Schwarber hits a home run every time he swings. Like every time he swings at any pitch, I feel like it's going to be crushed. I mean, that one ball he had in Game 4, or excuse me, I think it was Game 3, the game that I was at. I think he crushed it like 460 feet, something insane. Like this guy, Kyle Schwarber, has insane power. And honestly, if you were like, I'm not pitching to Schwarber or Bryce Harper, I'm just going to pitch to Trey Turner and every other guy in the lineup, like I wouldn't even be upset with you if every inning, if those two guys have to come up in the same inning, I wouldn't even be mad at you if you're like, you know what, Phillies are going to start with 2 guys on this inning. I wouldn't even be upset because that's how much Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper scare me right now at the plate. I wouldn't want to even pitch to either one of those guys. So I wouldn't be mad if the D-backs didn't want to pitch to those guys either. And then the final question that I have is, if the D-backs do force this Game 7, will it be the most insane playoff atmosphere ever? Game 7 at the bank, going to Philadelphia, who have aspirations of going to back-to-back World Series with the payroll that they have, the amount of talent that they have on their roster, and to go against a team like the D-backs who are composed of young stars and up-and-coming players and guys you've never heard of who are really good, like Merrill Kelly. Like, if the Phillies lose to that team, it would be absolutely soul-crushing to the D-backs team. So I just want to get to a Game 7 just so we could see that playoff atmosphere in Philadelphia. I want to see how insane it can be. And I am from the East Coast. If the D-backs force a Game 7, should I buy a last-minute ticket to the NLCS and fly back home? I probably won't do that, but I would love to see the D-backs. I would love to see the D-backs force a Game 7 just so we could see that playoff atmosphere. But we're going to need the pitching to be elite with Merrill Kelly. We're going to need the offense to come through late, and we're going to need some X factors to step up. And we'll talk about who those X factors are in segment number 3 with Sully Baseball.
Hey, look, it's Millard Thomas of Locked On Diamondbacks stopping by. I would not have bet on you stopping by early. Hey, did I mention betting? Does that remind you of anything?
I think it does, Sully, of just one thing.
Well, it reminds me of FanDuel. The World Series is going to happen this week. And by the end of the day, we're going to know who one of the participants is. And you could make your postseason debut with FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, Millard, have you heard about FanDuel and about their new deal?
Oh, yeah, Sully. I pour a lot of my money into FanDuel, and sometimes I get some money back, too.
Well, it gets a little easier to get that money back because if you join FanDuel today, you're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to create your new account. Then you can get on the action from the first pitch until the final out, or the walk-off hit, which you're hoping is not going to happen in Philadelphia tomorrow. Bet on everything from strikeouts to home runs to who will win the game and who will get hit. And if you don't want to wait the whole game to get a W, predict what will happen next at the next at-bat with quick bets. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now. Step up to the plate this postseason with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Make every moment more with FanDuel, which is the official betting partner of Major League Baseball. let me tell you, we're here. Millard Thomas, Locked on Diamondbacks, is excited for Game 6, which is going to be in the afternoon on the West Coast.
What time is the game? Actually, I haven't even looked it up.
It's because Houston and the Rangers are going to Game 7. That means it's going to be 5 o'clock Philadelphia time, 2 o'clock here in Los Angeles.
Oh my God.
So we're going to start watching the game in my classroom with my students, and a couple of them are big baseball fans. So we're going to have Philly Dbacks on there, and we have our Game 6 is tomorrow. I'll tell you who the key factor is for me. The key factor, and to me, a turn here could mean a turn just for the series, which is Corbin Carroll, who has been an absolute non-factor in this series up at this point. But I'm remembering, and you remember this too, in 2004, Johnny Damon was an absolute non-factor in the league championship series in 2004. He just was bombing big time. And I remember when the Red Sox did tie the series, I was at the Bloody Sock, A-Rod slaps a ball game in Yankee Stadium. There were some Red Sox fans who were grumbling maybe they should start Gabe Kapler, maybe they should start Dave Roberts. If Damon wasn't pulling his weight, start someone else. And you remember what happened? He hit 2 home runs. He hit the grand slam and the 2-run home run off of Vasquez, and iced the game. And nobody remembers the fact that he stunk the first 6 games. People remember he was the offensive hero in the clinching Game 7. If they've had this offense with a black hole in the lineup, that is Corbin Carroll. If Carroll picks up, and you're not even asking him to have a great series, you're asking him to have a good Game 6. If he has the type of game that you and I know he's capable of having, that could be enough to spark the Diamondbacks offense, force a Game 7, which is that going to be a bullpen game for both teams? I mean, it's going to be Suarez versus who? You? What? Oh, Fott, that's right. Watch him be the series MVP.
Best pitcher in baseball. Yeah, come on.
That's true. That's true. So that's right. I forgot it would be his turn in the rotation. But yeah, I mean, if Corbin Carroll has the big game, and Marte and some of the other players continue to hit, you know what? I know a lot of people are already saying it's a Philly pennant, but I really do give Arizona a puncher's chance. It's not just because you're on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I would hope the D-backs have a puncher's chance with what we've seen from them. And yeah, I totally agree. We need Corbin Carroll to step in a big way. And one thing we really haven't seen from Corbin Carroll this series, all postseason, that we keep talking about is that speed that he has, because we know he's arguably the fastest player in baseball. And so far this postseason, we just really haven't seen it. He hasn't really taken off in this series, hasn't stolen a base. And if he gets on base, because there has been a couple times, I think the first 2 games in Philly, he did get on base that first inning, and we just never sent him. And it would have just been such a good run scoring opportunity to send Corbin Carroll, get him on second early. And with the way Ketel Marte has been playing behind him, swinging one of the hottest bats in baseball, like Ketel Marte is a near 400 hitter in his career in the postseason. So let's send Corbin Carroll early so Ketel Marte can get those run scoring opportunities, because we've seen him be super clutch so far in this postseason. And then the other big X factor that the D-backs really need to wake up in their lineup is Christian Walker, who has been struggling big time in that cleanup hole. He has 8 strikeouts to just 2 hits in this series. And it just feels like anytime there's been runners on and Christian Walker's at the plate, it feels like he's striking out. How many half swings have I seen from Christian Walker this series, where it feels like he's trying to get out the way, but he's swinging through the pitch every single time? I swear I've seen at least 5 of those half swings from him this series where he gets called up on strikes. So Christian Walker needs to be a little bit more locked in at the plate. We need this is one of the best power hitters in baseball, and we just have not seen the slugging from Christian Walker in this postseason and especially this series. So Corbin Carroll and Christian Walker, I think, are 2 X factors that the D-backs really need to see step up. And then on the other side for the Phillies, I think the tandem of Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, I mean, is that not the most scariest duo that from the D-backs perspective that they need to see slow down a little bit?
I was stunned that Schwarber only had 5 homers. I thought he had at least 20 this series. It was unbelievable. Well, we got a big series coming on, and this is the last day we could ever have 2 games in the same day. So let's savor that, baseball fans. let's do today's trivia question.
Okay.
And do you know what? I thought of this trivia question while taking my dog for a walk. And when I came home, I did the homework for it because I didn't get it from a site. I got it on my own. So here is the trivia question. It's a pretty simple one. Who was the last pitcher to save both Game 6 and 7 of a Major League postseason series? Who was the last person to slam the door and earn the save? That's the key. Earning the save in Game 6 and 7 of a postseason series. Write the answers down here on YouTube or at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram, or where I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Millard Thomas, where can people listen to your terrific show?
Yeah, at Career Thomas 24 if you want to follow me on my personal Twitter account, or look up Locked On Diamondbacks both Twitter and Instagram. Please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube, and of course, we're on all your podcasting platforms.
You know, Millard, when they paired us together to do these, weekly crossovers, I did not think I was going to have someone who would be going this deep into the postseason. But like everyone at Locked On Yankees, Locked On Mets,
Yeah.
Locked On Dodgers, Locked On Cardinals, Locked On Brewers, Locked On Padres, who all thought they were making plans for October. Your team are 2 wins away from the World Series. It's been a real pleasure having you on during the regular season and postseason, and in the offseason, you'll be here too. But hey, follow us at all the places I said. On behalf of Millard Thomas of Locked On Diamondbacks, I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully, and let's fist bump for one more time.